It's an Ohio State Wednesday night here on Mark Rogers TV. We're joined by Brandon Zimmerman from the Buckeye Battle Cry. And Brandon, it's good to have a little bit of action on the field to talk about. So we'll dive into spring practice, which started on Tuesday. And it's not out of the norm for a team to have a couple guys quit the team, transfer, look for other opportunities based on the writing on the wall. And such is the case with the Buckeyes and three particular players that were pretty highly regarded when they came on campus for the first time.
Yes, you kind of knew some of these players were going to leave. There was just when you looked at the depth chart, you could look at a few of the positions and kind of guess where guys might drop out at. Wide receiver was one that I know we had spoke about a few weeks ago, where I figured from that group we would see a few go. So yesterday it came out that two wide receivers did leave. We had James Clark, who got a lot of playing time last year, is going to leave. He graduates this spring. He's still running track with the Buckeyes, but after he graduates, he's going to go and be a graduate transfer. He was meeting with Florida Atlantic yesterday, I believe it was. So looking at Florida schools, he's a Florida kid, so I would not be shocked if he was down there at one of those Florida schools as a graduate transfer. The other was former four-star wide receiver Alex Stump, another guy that heard great things about. Buckeyes were excited to get him in, but as the depth chart started playing itself out, he just got buried deeper and deeper. So he's actually transferring to Vanderbilt. He came out and announced yesterday, so Vanderbilt's getting a great wide receiver. The third guy was Tyler Gerald, who was a four-star guard, came out, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. This one kind of shocked everyone, even Urban Meyer yesterday when he was given his first press conference after spring practice. Just said that he quit. Didn't really know too much about it, so it doesn't sound like there was too much communication coming from Gerald to the staff. Just kind of came out of nowhere. So I hope everything's okay with him. You just never know how much schooling weighs on them, and football's just a secondary thing that they're there for. So you never know what is going on with them. So I hope the best for him, and that he gets what he wants out of life.
James Clark finishing his Ohio State career with 6 receptions. All of those came last season. Alex Stump with 1 catch for 8 yards. So that's they're in the books as Ohio State Buckeyes, regardless of what happens on down the road. But as you mentioned, Vanderbilt typically needing wide receivers, and maybe Alex Stump gets significant playing time and can contribute there with Kyle Shermer at quarterback for the Commodores. As we look at practice that's only a couple days old at this point, Brandon, your thoughts about what we've seen, particularly on defense, kind of confirming some thoughts that we had in regards to projection of players in particular spots.
Yep, it was fun to see football back in swing yesterday. Defense was a spot where everyone was kind of wondering how it would play out. After day one, there's no really big surprises there. If you've listened to Mark and I talk, big one, Chris Worley has officially gone into middle linebacker. There was debate if it was going to be Booker or Worley moving into the middle there. Tony Girdman from ozone.net reported that he heard it was going to be Worley about a week ago, and it turns out that that's true. So it is Worley in there in the middle. Out at cornerback, it's still, you don't know how it's going to play out. We knew that Denzel Ward had one of those spots on the lockdown, and he was running with the ones. Across from him, you were with Damon Arnett, who we spoke about last week. He was the nickelback last year, and also Sean Wade, who was the number 2 corner coming out of high school, are the two that were running with the ones. You've also got Jeffrey Okuda, who will play his way in, and Kendall Sheffield, who will wind up playing his way in. I really think the only reason why Kendall Sheffield wasn't with the ones yesterday was because he just got on campus about 1 week ago, so he's still fairly new to it. But by the end of spring practice, I think we're going to see Kendall Sheffield running with the ones more than Arnett is. Back at safety, a strong safety, that's a big question too, is who's going to take Malik Hooker's spot. As we spoke about last week, we kind of expected Eric Smith, who's kind of been a playmaker but battled some injuries over his first 3 years on campus. So it was Eric Smith, the senior, running with the ones in the first day of practice.
And for those of us who caught the NFL Combine in Indianapolis over the weekend, we saw Curtis Samuel get out of the gates and run a very impressive 4.31 40. Coming off a season in which he was the only back in college football to run and catch passes for, I believe, over 800 yards, something in that range. He's a special talent that's going to be extremely missed. Hopefully the Buckeyes can make up for him. Parris Campbell might be the guy to do it, or try to fill the gap along with maybe a few other guys, but it looks like he might get the number one shot here.
Yeah, it's kind of been up in the air. Everyone kind of assumed that DeMario McCall was going to be that guy that slides in there. I still think he will, but they're going to ease him into it because we just don't know how he is on running routes and everything. Yesterday, he was running with the running backs, but they had bumped him down to third string. So I don't think that's a indication that he's not moving. I think if anything, they bumped him down to third string and they're going to ease him into going to the H-back slot. Parris Campbell appears has moved from the outside in, which I think is a good thing for him. Parris Campbell has a lot of speed. He's got size. He played running back in high school. He's played wide receiver his first 2 years on the Buckeyes, but he's kind of struggled one-on-one with those corners. By moving him in, he can use his straight line speed matched up against safeties and linebackers. You've also got KJ Hill, who I am huge on. I still wish KJ Hill would move to the outside and become one of the wide receivers out there. Eric Glover Williams, who is a great athlete, is moving from safety into the H-back spot. I think ultimately we're going to see a lot of Parris Campbell, a lot of DeMario McCall from that H-back slot. And it's going to be more of a situational type thing than what we saw last year when Curtis Samuel was just that guy or Dontre Wilson was that guy. I think on running type of situations, you're going to see McCall there. On straight up passing, you're going to see Parris Campbell. So I think it's going to be more of a matchup than we've seen in years past, especially with Kevin Wilson and expanding the passing offense there.
And I believe Hill caught the first touchdown of the season against Bowling Green. That was his lone score of the season, 18 catches for 262. Parris Campbell, 13 receptions last season, no scores and $121 through the air. And obviously the production for both of those players, and specifically Parris Campbell, is going to have to be probably, you would think, in more the 35 to 45 catch range with Curtis Samuel again to get the record straight. 771 rushing, 865 receiving. He was the only player in college football to pull off the 700 figure.